Hello, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio. Glad that you can actually be connected here. Today is Wednesday. It is October 9th, not October 9th, November 9th. I'm starting this day off a whole lot early. This year off a whole lot earlier than I need to because of the fact that my brain is fried. And yes, it's going to be Wednesday, and I'm going to have Cindy with me here. Cindy Gross. We're going to listen, folks. Before we get into what's going on with Cindy and just the information she's going to telling us about, what can Brown do for you as we sit here talking about American Pride Roasters coffee and its effect on your life? Did you hear that sound? That was the factory of American Pride Roasters closing from August 24th to September 14th. Don't freak out. APR Coffee isn't going anywhere. They're doing their annual factory shutdown to reorganize, restock, and clean. You can still order from them, but your favorite coffee won't ship until September 16th, around that time. During the shutdown, they are offering the Brad's Brown Bag Blend. It's a combination of the best brown beans from Africa, Eurasia, and the Americas. Brad's Brown Bag is an unforgettably tasty blend. In order to get this new blend, just go to mojo50.com and click the donate button at the top. Donate at least $25 per bag. That's a nice round number. And you will also get a free 8-ounce bag of coffee for every additional 2 pounds you order at AmericanPrideRoasters.com during their factory shutdown. Please, take advantage of this limited time offer while you can. AmericanPrideRoasters.com. AmericanPrideRoasters.com. Start off with that blend and basically awaken all your friends to everything that's going on here. So let's do this, and let's bring in Cindy, who's ready to rock and roll. It's been a few weeks since we've spoken. Cindy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I have to tell you, you just announced that it was October, then November. We're only in September.
I said November.
Yes.
I guess
I'm trying to get this live for my fans on my page, and I'm having a little bit of an issue, so just give me 1 second.
That's no problem.
Yes.
Take your time on that.
Fans on my page, and I'm having a little bit of an issue. I'm just going to share right here. Sorry.
Okay, so if you can turn that audio down on that would be great, and then we can continue to go on this thing here. So everyone, listen, as we sit here and we're talking about, we're going to get into the whole idea of being back to school, education, reform, reborn or reformed. And the reason why I say reformed or reborn is here's the opportunity. Here's an opportunity where you get the chance to now my kids are back in school here in Indiana. Now, New York, they've been trying to get back to school, and I'm going to share a couple quotes from an article. I'll make certain that you have the link to that as well on my Facebook page, as well as on the page for Battle for Freedom, which is Battle4Freedom.com. I want you to go there and share that out with as many people as you possibly can. So Cindy has a great article talking about school and so much more, and we'll just get into some of that right now. Actually, she's writing in an article because of the fact that one of the people she's mentioning her name is Randy Weingarten, and it's interesting when we're trying to get kids back to school. What is the language that you're hearing from this Miss Weingarten? And I want to share this one thing that she said here, which I thought was very interesting because it's not the mentality of what you're expecting for a teacher that we're talking about with school. She basically says we need to be thinking about how to engage members and students so that they have the power and a sense of hope. And through that power, and if we don't vote, we don't get a chance. We don't get to change things. If we don't vote, we don't get that power. Now, I'm trying to understand, what kind of power are you talking about when we really need to be focused on getting these kids educated? There's so many of these other different things that we've been focusing on. There's this concern about, are the kids eating, or what's the health? Are we checking whether or not these kids are abused? But we're talking about elections. We're focusing on elections rather than getting the kids back into a structured classroom to help them, learn about and prayerfully learn about the direction the president wants to go with the less liberal and less anti-American rhetoric that's been pushed down the throats of our kids for so long. You know what? I'm going to let Cindy talk about this right now because I'm starting to get worked up and it's too soon.
Well,
It's
I
too
think you
early.
have to clarify some things. That quote is taken from, I believe, July 2019 when she partnered with Michelle Obama to do a voting initiative within the school systems. If you notice how many unions are endorsing President Trump, who, by the way, we should really wish congratulations to. President Trump was just nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for the work
Really?
he's done, which is going to be quite interesting on how the Biden Harris ticket's going to play this up. After all, they keep calling him the man of war. So, yes, that just broke about an hour ago.
Hold on a second here. So it took the president almost 4 years to get a Nobel Peace Prize when Barack Obama was given one for just being elected.
Well, the nomination was from someone who said he's not a Trumper, but you cannot dismiss the fact that he's tried to bring peace around the world like no other president.
Exactly.
And he was nominated because of the latest peace agreement in the Middle East.
Yeah.
But it really ties into something about the curriculum. You started bringing it up, and that is the fact that our curriculum for a good 20 years at least, with the Common Core curriculum coming out of Qatar and the globalist multiculturalism, has been teaching not fact, but bias and prejudice opinions. And one of those is the idea that democracy and freedom is bad. Judeo-Christian values are bad. And the leader of the largest teachers' unions, best friends with Hillary and Bill Clinton, if you recall in 2016 in Philadelphia, who sat next to Bill Clinton in the box as Hillary was accepting her speech? Giving her acceptance speech. It
I don't
was
recall.
Weingarten. She is the most progressive liberal voice against the president. You could go on her Twitter account and almost daily she has something against the president.
Wow. See, that's insane. And you know, when everyone says, "Oh," now think about this. Everybody says that the president doesn't unite. How do you unite with people who are constantly at war with you? You barely wake up and they already have so many negative things about you. We have the negative spin about saying the president was at odds with the military and everything like that. You have all these things that are being shared out there. And now, granted, Bolton is no longer a person of character or reference for me. Even if he says the president never said that about the military, Bolton, for what he's done and his inconsistencies, he basically is a glory hound. And even if he exonerated the president, his credibility is shot. His I can't, and then many of us should not celebrate with Bolton basically saying the president didn't say anything with everything else he said the president did say. But you see this onslaught, and so now you're finding out this individual who has Clinton ties is basically going to be one of the biggest vocal advocates out there. Yeah, and this person.
Watson, this is not brand new. This is decades of work. Randy first ran the New York State NICET and U of T, and now she's national. So this is really something that every taxpayer should know, whether or not you're the most progressive or the most conservative. This is a name that's up there with names like Susan Rice, like cabinet members, or if you're a law enforcement person, because everybody's tax-paying dollars goes towards education, whether or not they have students in schools. And when Randy Weingarten has been one of the most visible people throughout the pandemic, whether on MSNBC or CNN or Fox, she's out there. And she is the most influential voice because her union gives millions upon millions of dollars to Democratic candidates. A very, very few Republicans ever get the endorsement. I happened to see yesterday a New York Assembly person got the endorsement. But I've been told by insiders in Albany, they make deals with the union. They won't go against them publicly, but they won't do anything to help the school choice issues, the quality of education publicly either. So being, complacent is just as well as going along.
It's unfortunate because it's a level of negligence that is partisanship is probably killing these people from focusing on like what you tried to do, where you tried to stay focused on the nature, the welfare, the health and the safety and security of these kids. Other issues are driving these individuals who should be, if you should be really focused on making a difference in the community and changing the lives of American citizens rather than just being advocates against the president or advocates against conservatism, advocates against capitalism. Well, no. They're not advocates against capitalism because they're doing the best that they can to make as much money as they possibly can, and take advantage and abuse the system. This is disgusting as we're watching this thing. You know what? Again, what in this article that you have here, what motivated you to actually write out this article in the first place?
Well, I am an education activist. I am known for my work for speaking out. I knew right away when Governor Cuomo stated that schools could open, having his war with Mayor de Blasio, that it was just to get the issue off his back until September. I believe he announced it in August, early August. So it was a good month or so. And I said all along, this was just a political ploy on his part. One less thing to deal with this month as he has to deal with the crime that he's ignored. I mean, no one I know feels the Upper West Side of Manhattan is safe. No one I know feels safe walking down Fifth Avenue. Store after store, restaurants. I spoke to a very well-known restaurant owner who luckily has other businesses that he could survive on. But one of the best known restaurants, a tourist attraction in the middle of Times Square, the theater district, will probably not open. And it's not because of COVID, it's because of safety. But Cuomo and de Blasio don't want to deal with that. They have not wanted to face the facts that they are not dictators. But then again, it's a fault of the voters who continuously vote for them and and pour money into the New York State Democratic Party.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really sad because hearing the news, Cindy, about how you have more and more people who are fleeing even the Upper West Side. I talked about it earlier about this week of the woman who was the urinating woman who was doing things, servicing an individual in Upper West Side New York, and they're showing even graphics of U-Haul trucks. People can't rent U-Haul trucks fast enough to get out of the city, and I'm like, did you guys really think this thing through when you chose to be as negligent as you were in your responsibility of taking care of the people in your community? Or were you happy to allow this to continue to happen and do nothing, absolutely nothing about helping and getting these people, giving them some peace of living in the city that never sleeps is now the city that never creeps?
I also blame the New York State Republican Party. The New York State Republican Party has done nothing to rebuild themselves, giving us credible candidates that are people that can actually get out there and get a voice out. Why aren't we hearing about the girl who's running against Jerry Nadler? That should be one of the most visible seats right now, because they put a bench warmer there who has absolutely no business running. And the fact of the matter is the Manhattan Republican chair, Andrea Catsimatidis, who's best buddies with Donald Trump Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle, has done nothing to enhance this candidacy. The fact that the New York State GOP leader, Nick Langworthy, has allowed this but he can't raise funds. He's not getting any brownie points for the work he's done the past year in New York. He's allowed a state Senate seat in Long Island that we could have won to be empty. He allowed the seat against Nita Lowry in Westchester, which will now go not to a moderate Democrat, but to a socialist Democrat, empty. He's going to allow the Peter King seat to flip. I cannot give any details now, but I have been handed documentation, and I will have a breaking story about one of the other candidates that is going to absolutely make every single listener jaw drop.
Wow.
We have upstate now a write-in campaign for a candidate because the voters aren't happy with the mail-in ballot choice that was kind of contested and questionable of voter fraud. So now the grassroots people are saying, we're not going to take it anymore. They're Peter Fincher Network. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it. And unless we get some really strong new Republican leadership, I can tell you already, the New York mayor race for next year, money is being flooded into moderate Democrats. And that's not the answer.
Wow. And so we're sitting here. So when I was hoping that the failures of Cuomo, the failures of de Blasio would potentially move a Republican candidate, that it could swing in and actually change the direction of New York, you're saying that there's no chance of it happening anytime soon.
No, New York is gone. Foreign money that was buying up the luxury buildings in Manhattan, both for homes, apartments, investments, and businesses on Fifth Avenue, Madison Avenue. Why should they go there? So they have to be vandalized so they could walk the streets and get mugged? And it's the same thing in LA. It's the same thing in Washington, D.C. It's the same thing in Philadelphia. It's the same thing in Miami, where I understand now President Trump is 50-50 even with Biden. And if
Wow.
that's the case, Florida is Trump's.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely Trump's. There's no way that there's no way that they can actually feel comfortable with themselves believing that they're going to have a chance to win this, given their negligence in these other areas. I was really hoping that you're going to tell me that. I was really hoping that you're going to tell me that New York was really going to flip red, because there's a lot of rumors that it's a possibility that we could even see California flip red because of
So
the
this
fact.
is my prediction. Donald Trump is going to do amazingly well because Donald Trump is not the establishment GOP.
Yeah.
However, the candidates down the line is going to be, even in New York, unprecedented losses. I have inside sources in Albany. Unprecedented losses down the line, upstate, downstate. The grassroots GOP is angry, but they're not going to cave in. They're just not going to vote, or they're going to write in names all over the state.
Wow.
And let's get back to education.
Yeah.
Let's go back to before COVID. De Blasio, with his superintendent of schools, the chancellor, Richard Carranza, was in the middle of lawsuits with the idea of admissions being based on color of skin rather than merit. The Asian communities of Flushing were filing lawsuits. There were cheating scandals on the testing through schools. We had Linda Sarsour standing next to Randy Weingarten, next to Bill de Blasio, influencing educators, visiting schools. We have classrooms with handouts that teach that blacks, well, they said Africans came to America for a better life. with a coloring of the 13 colonies. We have classrooms that teach the Holocaust didn't exist. That 9/11 coming up this Friday, that 9/11 did not happen by radical Islamic terrorists.
What? What?
That's right. 9/11 did not happen by radical Islamic terrorists. Islamic people are peaceful. It's the Judeo-Christian values we have to question. We have classrooms that teach oral sex and the use of sexual toys to kindergarten and first graders. And this is all under Randy Weingarten.
See, you
So when
had to.
President Trump says we need vouchers,
Yeah.
and when Betsy DeVos says we need vouchers, and when people like John James and Tim Scott and Kimberly Klacik and Larry Elder, and now I can't think of the defense lawyer who's on Hannity every night, Leo Terrell, has stated enough is enough.
Yeah.
And we're hearing it from the Black community and want school vouchers, want law enforcement. Then Randy Weingarten has to go with her unions, and taxpayers have to make their decisions.
Wow.
And we have more. We have Burgess Owens. We have Kathy Barnett running right outside of Philadelphia who could flip a seat. We don't hear too much about Kathy, but that's a race we really should be getting involved with. I mean, we have a record number in the Republican Party of candidates, not in New York, but around the country where we could flip seats that are Asian, that are Black, that are Hispanic, that are Jewish. We have Laura Loomer in Florida who's causing quite a stir because she's not going to be going to Washington and sitting quietly. She's actually going to bring legislation to call out hate, especially from the words and actions from the squad.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, and that's of all the horrible things that you just mentioned of what they're teaching our kids in there. And, you know, we talk about the devastation that's happening in New York. This is another thing that was this was another quote from one of your articles that I thought was really powerful, because this is the reason why I'm a little bit annoyed by what Weingarten said of this focusing on this voting and power and everything like that. This is what you said earlier in your article. You said with one or two generations involved in this chaotic atmosphere, it is a wonder. Is it any wonder we have millennials leading the riots, looting, mugging, rapes, and now murder? And this is very key because of the fact that we've strayed away from proper education, because of the fact that most of the education, Cindy, that has been affecting our kids, and we've got about a minute before we go to the break. Audio will be a little bit off, but because of the fact that we have all this propaganda being taught to our children, instead of teaching them how to think, instead of what to think, they are being programmed as these destructive drones that have been going in and destroying our communities, destroying our homes, destroying our livelihoods. You're right. It's no wonder they are leading the looting. They're leading the rioting. They're leading a lot of different things out on the streets right now it's very problematic. It's very questionable. And it's very unfortunate because of the fact that in the process of us choosing to sit silent, in the process of, because I can't remember the numbers, and maybe when we come back from the break, if you know those, please share them. But there was a concern that most people chose not to show up to vote in the midterms. Now the Republicans,
right.
The Republicans got a shellacking.
Only 6.5% voted.
Say again.
And only 6.5% voted. And we found out in my primary, which we have some questions about, practically all the money donated to the Republican endorsed candidate came from Republican businesses connections, and that there was something going on with texting to get information that the Board of Elections had that seems to be going through a local election now. So people don't have faith. I mean, I get letters every day through my voter GOP group, which we'll talk about later. But here's an education for everybody: go home and do your homework. Find out who's on your school boards.
Oh my goodness.
Make phone calls and meet them. Ask them how they decide what textbooks they choose in the classroom. Get a bunch of people together and do a walkthrough and watch teach. Well, now you can't do walkthroughs. Get staff lists. Find out how people rate these teachers, who knows them, and how are they being rated from the unions. Because if they usually stick up and become a whistleblower for your children, then the unions go against them and fire them.
Mm, 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 mm. Wow. Holy
Now that
moly
you're all fired
guacamole.
up, it's time for a commercial.
Yeah. Well, no, we're going through the commercial and we're actually coming back from the commercial. We were off by like 10, 15 seconds. So we're just going to continue going. And actually, the thing starts back up in 5 seconds here. And then we'll just, we'll get it going here. And here you go. Welcome back, Watson Prunier here from Battle for Freedom, Mojo 50 Radio. Glad that many of you are listening and that you're following in. It's been a crazy morning. As I sit here just with Cindy Gross, who is basically connected in ways that you will appreciate because of the fact that she's going to speak to the people who are telling you what's going on, what's happening, and especially where it's most critical. As we sit here talking about being back to school, reborn, education reborn or reformed. What kind of school are our kids going back to, especially in a lot of these school cities and these towns and these states where they've delayed the process of students going back. What does that look like? What does the classroom look like? My kids who are spending Monday through Friday, going through Zoom meetings and, watching videos online and trying to interact. Great teachers. I appreciate the teachers that my kids have. Wonderful personalities. They're and I'm not going to lie to you. It's humorous to hear. It's humorous to hear the teachers trying to corral these kids who, ooh, look at my belly button. And you're just cracking up as you're trying to hear the teacher corral them back. But this is what's happening here in Indiana. What's happening in New York?
So let
Go.
me describe to you. First of all, I want to make something very clear. I am not one of these people that has any conspiracy theories. I believe COVID is real. I know people who died from COVID. It's a serious issue. I am one of those people that wears a mask. I am one of those people that has avoided social gatherings and political rallies where I've been getting a lot of pressure and a lot of criticism. How can I, a Trumper, do that? This is not about being a Democrat or Republican. This is about common sense. And to those who think that thinking this is just a hoax, you're wrong.
Well, it's more than just people thinking that it's being a hoax, because I think here's one of my concerns on this, Cindy, is everyone has a right to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. It's their choice at the end of the day.
Right.
And I think that's a concern that many people have more than anything else, because you have people who are pro-choice. Because I hate seeing the term anti-mask, because I want to create a meme that says I'm not anti-mask, I'm just pro-choice. So then how do you respond on that? And then when you do say that to even liberal progressive Democrats, they're like, how can you compare the two of them? I'm like, if it's my body, my choice, then my body,
That's
my choice.
okay. So I understand the concerns of safety, but you can't allow, and Randy Weingarten supports this, you can't allow the rioting and the protesters without the social distancing, with the violence on one hand, and say you can't meet and gather.
Yeah.
I have seen some very creative teachers who have done some great social distancing, safety measures. I mean, really cute. And then there are other teachers that have taken advantage of sitting home and doing nothing. But then again, it's like that bunch of grapes I always tell you about. There's always that great group of grapes in a bunch, and you're eating 10 of them, and then you pick up the 11th, and it's sour. And it turns you off on the rest of the bunch. We have to get back to work. We have to get back to school. But the key thing here is creativity. I mean, I found my friend who is a party planner. She revamped her whole business throughout coronavirus. She's a graphic designer and she made signs right away. We support the essential workers, and people bought those, and the money that was raised went to send food to the hospitals. From that, it was the graduation signs, balloons in the front of the house, designing masks, and she made a business. Another friend of mine is a florist who had COVID, and so did his wife. They were out of business 2 days. They had everything transferred from their office phone to their house phone, made up designs and contracts through computers. And as soon as you saw parties, whatever, limited, they still had to do weddings where they needed canopies. They needed a little bit of flowers. They needed engagement parties, Mother's Day. Here it's coming up, the Jewish holidays. People order flowers. You revamp it. Deliveries are different. Quantities are different. But you make yourself creative.
I understand what you're saying, Cindy, but you have to understand that not everybody has that flexibility or innovation.
Of
There's
course
a
not. My husband is one of those people. So I get that. But in education, where there is something called school choice, I can tell you people who have been homeschooling for years that will tell you they didn't have any problems adjusting.
yeah,
And when people question them about how they did it, people hooked up to them
yeah.
and they were able to share that. Why should the teachers' unions get all this money if there are options? Why should you go buy the same orange juice in one supermarket that's going to charge $5.99 and 3 blocks away the same exact one, not expired or anything, for $3.99? That's the idea. You might even like the $3.99 store better. It might be cleaner. It might have better service. And while you're there, you might find more things you need. That's the education system. There are options. Why are the unions so afraid of charter schools, especially for minorities in blue states? Why are they so afraid of private schools? Why are they so afraid of homeschooling? Because it's not money in their pockets. It's not power to endorse and help campaigns.
Yeah,
That's why.
that right. Your last phrase right there was key. Not money in their power, in their pockets, and not power to control and basically get the endorsements that they want. It's interesting. One of my daughters, they have this like break time, and they can turn around and relax, chill out, or just do exercises, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this, and there's like this video she's playing, and she's dancing with this video and everything like that. And halfway through the video, I mean, some of the statements that she was making was really crazy. I was like, that sounds, bizarre. But then she made a comment about President Obama in the middle of the song. There's Obama is in this video, an educational video, an entertainment video for kids. Obama's in there, not Trump. The song has President Obama in there. And I said, okay, we're done. I said, we are done. The moment that you can sit here, Obama's no longer president. And why are you pushing videos with President Obama, but you're not pushing videos with President Donald J. Trump? So I take issue with this because you can see the hidden messages that, and even on YouTube now, when I open up stuff, I'm seeing videos from Stacey Abrams, I'm seeing videos from Joe Biden, and I'm barely seeing videos from Donald Trump on YouTube. And this
What
is
about
ridiculous.
that? Okay, Stacey Abrams lost. We forget that. Stacey Abrams wasn't one from her own state. Okay, I saw Beta O'Rourke on something recently. These are people that lost. Let's pick some Republicans that lost that make an impact like this.
Yeah. I mean, but they won't do that. And so you're right on the whole idea of when I talk about education reborn or education reformed, when I say reborn, the president is pushing for a reborn education system where
Correct.
we get back to talking about pro-American things. When we've basically all we've had for the last 2 decades is America is this imperialist country and society that has been done nothing but destroy the lives of innocent, sweet individuals, and we must speak out against this. But no, but most of these kids do not know their history. They know nothing of what's going on here, Cindy. So what
Okay,
happens
their
is,
parents don't either. Let's be honest, the parents don't either. You see, we're not allowed to say two words here that are used in other countries where education is much better because Republicans won't use it either. It's called parent accountability.
yeah,
There are countries that if your student cannot get to school, parents are responsible to go to that school, get that work, and make sure it's done and handed in a timely manner.
yeah,
We don't have that here. We don't have parents involved in PTAs in the numbers that they should be. We don't have parents actually coming to school. There is no repercussion for a parent that never shows up for a parent-teacher conference.
yeah, yes.
So I think, but it will never be done, if you want the monies for your children, there comes the vouchers. Parents, you've got to prove it. Just because you biologically are a parent doesn't mean you are physically stable to take care of a child. And that's what's happening in our society.
True, true. I think you're hitting
That's a whole other issue. But the education plays a big part of it because education feels we now have to be the babysitters. We now have to be the dentist or optometrist because you could get, all these medical medical services in schools, and of course all the meals.
yeah. Yeah, so
And
what they but see that's interesting, Cindy, because of the fact you're talking about something that they've done is they switched the roles of responsibility and who's supposed to do what. And you're right.
correct.
You made a comment earlier that their parents don't even know. So let's even dive a little bit deeper into this because I know people. Here's my appreciation, if I can say the word, my appreciation for COVID. COVID has forced America to slow down to a screeching halt and actually
Correct.
do some serious evaluation. We don't need the NBA. We don't need the mat. We don't need the baseball. We don't need football. We don't need basketball. We don't need any of these sports
And
things.
Hollywood is freaking out because they can't do anything.
Yep.
You know what? Yeah, George Clooney is still making money because he has Casamigos tequila.
Mm.
But if someone's not invested,
They're broke.
if someone can't, they're broke.
And see, and this is the thing.
Studios,
But this is the
studios
key.
are people learning other things to do besides watch movies. And you think that once movie theaters are open, people are going to go put out $20 a ticket when so many people have less income?
Yes, exactly. And see, but this is the key about it, though. I want to get back to a phrase you said earlier: parental accountability. Cindy, you know how critical this is on making certain that, when you said you want vouchers, you need to show me what you're trying to do. And so what you do is you put out a template. This is what I'm looking for. If you're serious about making this happen, this is basically what I'm looking for. And I'll give you an example of what it looks like. Here's a template of what are the steps that you're going to take to make certain that you're going to be involved in your kid's life. You're going to be involved in the process of making certain that they understand the lesson plan, that you even understand the lesson plan and what direction you need to go. I like the fact that the teachers who are reaching out and they're asking, I think it was last week or earlier this week, hey, do the kids feel comfortable using Zoom? In the beginning of the class, we have to make certain that, one of our daughters, we have to take a snapshot because the teacher puts out the schedule of what's going on. So we know what days our middle daughter will be in such and such session, or has to be in this Zoom call a little bit more than what's going on. And, but it's a little bit challenging. Make sure you have three girls and you're taking care of them at the same time, and make sure everyone's doing their school stuff and kids are separated. But once you get through the process of, you understand what's required for you, what's expected of you, and you teach these parents, because this is where it's been lacking, Cindy, where you're talking about there's a lot of things that there's a generation, there's a generation of undereducation. There's a
So I have
generation of
more
undereducation.
than one generation, number one. And number two, I'm going to make a suggestion. It should be looked upon like the same way bail reform and criminal reform justice was done. Look how President Trump did it so successfully with an Alice Johnson type of person. And look how bail and criminal justice reform has failed under Cuomo and de Blasio.
Yeah.
And education has to be looked at that way as well.
Yeah. So
It
then
can
is
be done if it's done the right way.
So then what so you started off right in the terms of talking about parental, because the biggest key on success on this is going to be parental accountability. Uh
Absolutely.
so that's going to be the first phase. So, but I want to make a sidestep, or maybe not so much of a sidestep, but a question on this. What do we do for the kids who do not have a parental figure in there? What do we do about the kids who may be in a group home, or they may be in another situation, or in foster care, or, you know,
So, as we've seen, I mean, I know from my own situation as an educator, ACS in New York and the teachers' unions work hand in hand. They're all under the power of the mayor.
okay.
So, I mean, I can't answer everything, but I can tell you that if you have to compare what is offered today for children who don't come from homes that is stable and secure versus, let's say, immigrants who also came, who left their kids alone, a lot of them. I mean, if you watch all the old movies from the 1920s in New York City on the Lower East Side, wherever it was, you had corruption, you had bad families, you had immigrants come here who didn't speak English as a first language, you had families, parents that worked three jobs, 20 hours, that relied on the school. There has to be the initial respect of authority, which they don't have. I have witnessed multiple times parents come up to school not even knowing what's going on, threatening, hitting. I personally was threatened by a woman who actually was trying to take her nieces away from the husband, the father, because she didn't like the father. Was in cahoots with the principal. The kids were beaten up. They were not. They had a lot of behavior issues. We'll put it that way.
Wow.
And she came up to me. She said, "You're reporting me. I'm gonna make sure you're gonna get it." Just like that, in front of the principal. The principal stood there and said, "You see what happens? You got us in trouble in school."
Wow.
So it's not that things aren't offered. It's not that clothing drives aren't offered. School supplies. I mean, how many businesses offer free things at this time of year for students in need?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that 100 years ago. But the attitude of entitlement is different.
Yeah.
I like healthcare. It's a right. No, it's a privilege if you earn it right.
Exactly. Well, work ethic. Work ethic is the big thing
Correct.
that is a massive vacuum in society today, and it's nothing but a nightmare. Oh Lord, please help us because of the fact that this is only going to get worse, Cindy. And as you talk about the
Oh,
idea of New York,
absolutely.
you talk about the idea of New York being lost. Um, I just can't fathom what New York will look like even by the end of this year, Cindy. Uh,
I can tell you now, even where I live, and I'm in New York, but I'm not in the five boroughs, people are leaving in droves. I'll go as far to say this because you know how much I love Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin's district is changing so much that his seat's risky.
yeah, but
So many people that are Republicans are leaving and moving out of state.
yeah, and then you know what? It's going to become a hellhole living in New York. And see, and when all that money is
Going to
gone,
become, it is a hellhole. People were walking in Central Park just casually with their kids on Sunday, and all of a sudden in the local lake, they pulled out a dead body. This was never heard of.
what in Central Park? When this
Uh-huh.
happened?
Sunday. People were sitting in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you saw last night
Yes, I
the
saw the
video.
Pittsburgh
People sitting in
and Rochester, New York. Yeah,
Rochester.
holy cow. Yeah, I almost moved to. You know what? I almost moved to Rochester before 25 years ago. I almost moved to Rochester before deciding to move here to Indiana. And I saw that, and I'm like, I'm glad I don't. I'm glad I decided to choose Indiana. I'm not saying it's
Not
completely.
cousins. I'm calling today to see that they're okay, but it's very scary.
Yeah, I've actually have friends who live upstate in New York as well too. I think near Albany, and they're saying that it's even bad up there. They're getting the riotings, they're getting the protests,
Right.
and no place in New
You know what?
York
We
is
haven't
safe.
even discussed something about education that has been overlooked, and that's the transportation. How many students and teachers and staff take public transportation? Have you seen what's going on subways lately? What's
Yeah,
going on in Penn Station and Grand Central Station?
yeah,
A couple of Sundays ago, at a main subway station by Bloomingdale's on a Sunday at 11 o'clock, a man attempted to rape a 31-year-old girl.
yeah. I mean, out and
And
I'll
now
tell.
17-year-olds in this situation.
I saw that and I saw the video, and you know what makes me mad more than anything else, Cindy, is people yelled at him rather than going off and kicking him off of her. He should have been impaled by an object that would have basically rendered him useless to society. But everyone just yelled,
But
Cindy,
you
and
know
I'm
what happens to people like that?
yeah, they go to
They get
jail.
arrested.
They get arrested. That's true.
They
They
go
get
to
arrested.
jail.
Yeah, you can't
And
be a hero.
he's on the streets because the police can't do their job.
Whoa, you're saying that guy's back on the streets?
I'm pretty sure he is.
Most likely
I
with
don't
the
know.
new, most likely with the New York bail reform
Up
nightmare.
north.
Yeah,
What about people wanting to drive into the city? Before COVID, it was a disaster here.
yeah, yeah. Oh my
They see
goodness.
people with a car, forget it.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. I know New York theater is falling apart and they're worried. No, I'm not looking to go spend. What's a theater ticket going to be? The cheapest ticket's $150, right? Who is going to spend that just on a ticket without transportation and dinner for one ticket for a couple of hours of entertainment when you can't walk the streets of Times Square? The
Yeah.
Hilton Hotel at Times Square closed. Do you know what that says? That's just the tip of the iceberg of what's to come.
Yeah, literally, I was talking to someone this past weekend. I was talking to a photographer. I was talking to a DJ. I was talking to a group with a wedding venue, and my eyes even opened up wider to the magnitude of the shutdown and the lives being affected by this. It's
Uh-huh.
it's nothing but a nightmare, Cindy. And what's
That's
really
right.
sad in this is there's a lot of anger floating around. Again, I get back to, Cindy, the reality that most of the kids who are going to go back to schools in New York and many schools around this country are not going to basically be able to logically reason out why this country is in disarray. It's because of progressivism, progressive teaching that has moved them away from recognizing the result of adopting socialist policies that has never worked. They continue to push us down our throat that socialism works, but because you refuse to teach history, you refuse to show that this has not worked in any other country out there. It has never worked. And look at this. We're not even no longer even talking about Venezuela. When everyone wants to sit there and you're like,
Let's not even talk about history. How about teaching respect and manners? How about teaching English? You know what? Grammar is a thing of the past.
yeah, yeah.
How about teaching basic math, not fuzzy math?
Okay, I'm gonna be the advocate for the insanity for a second here. Teaching me proper English is. Do you have a problem with my ethnicity? Are you being racist by saying the way that I speak right
No,
now is not
I'm
proper?
not talking about that. I'm talking about capital letters, punctuation. Um, I'm talking about synonyms and antonyms to have creative words in a
But
conversation.
but hold on a second. But that is nothing from the imperialistic white supremacist view that has been just shoved down my throat and the throats of my families for generations to come. So maybe we need to just try something new because what y'all had before wasn't helping me out as a person of color trying to succeed in this overly oppressive society.
Well, I'm going to say to you that this is America and this is English. And all the immigrants that came here learned it the same way and succeeded. The best of America, including, and I heard this on Burgess Owens, before the Lyndon Johnson's work on the black community that got them to become a welfare community, middle class blacks who were taught in the public schools, who owned businesses, owned homes, all that together, were a different type of black person than what we know today. And I take it from Burgess Owens because I totally respect him. From Tim Scott. Tim Scott said it best. From cotton to congressman in one generation. Where else could a black person have that fulfilled? It
Yeah,
wasn't in Africa in the 1600s.
yeah, yeah.
Africa, I don't think still has that for most of their people. But I do think if you learn how to speak and write and learn how to give change or get change, you wouldn't be gypped money in stores because people won't take advantage of you.
Yeah, yeah. They wouldn't take advantage of you. But again, you, I think you realize though the reasons why for the dumbed down version or the limited or strained education system on actually teaching people how to think and reason allows them to be more controllable if they don't have all the facts. And if they lack the
Exactly.
discernment skills, if they lack the reasoning skills, then they can't work themselves out of poverty. They can't work themselves out of these deplorable situations because of the fact that they haven't been given the tools. And see, and you said
But
it,
they have been given the tools in the same way every other person who came here that didn't speak. The only difference is how you use them.
yeah,
Are you using them the right way? That's it. You're given this. You know what? In New York, we spend more money per student than almost every place else around the world, and yet our failure rate is higher than most people. So it's not about giving or money. It's about respect and attitude.
Well, there you have it, folks. Cindy said it best. It's about respect and attitude. Brad Staggs and Daily Mojo's up next, folks. We really appreciate you listening in. Take care, and God bless.